who reported, I came with the messenger of Allah, Allah blessed him and gave him peace to do the pilgrimage. The people began to approach him. Amongst them was who said, O messenger of Allah, I did the sa'i, meaning the walk between Safa and Marwa, before Tawaf. Or I did something last and I did something first. And he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, used to say there is no harm except for the man who violated the honor of a Muslim wrongfully. And he is the one who is in troubles and is destroyed. Brings me back to the black stone, for example. If you getting to the black stone means you have to push another Muslim out of the way, don't do it. Don't do it, because the honor of a Muslim, the heart of a Muslim, is more important to Allah than anything else. More important than the Kaaba. I'm not saying take the rituals easy. But don't get involved in any arguments. There might be somebody praying somewhere where he shouldn't be praying. You can tell him, but if he wants to fight, let him be. There's nothing you can do about it. Somebody might push you. Don't hit back. The honor of the other Muslim is more important than the whole Kaaba. This is very clear from when Bilal radiallahu anhu went up the roof of the Kaaba to do his adhan. He went up there with his shoes on, or sandals rather. The Muslim, each individual Muslim, is more important in the sight of Allah than anything else. And it is very important to remember that when you go to Hajj. And when you remember that, it might provide you with this very important, very necessary patience and humility. That's one of the most important things you have to try to learn before you go. It is very, very easy to lose your temper over there. Very easy. And that's the test, because you're not meant to do that. I tell you, when I went, if I didn't go for Hajj or Umrah, I would have shouted down the throat of this official at Jeddah airport. I would have told him this and I would have told him that. But because you go for Hajj or Umrah, shh, you be quiet. It's very easy to get angry. But don't do it. And try it already before you go. Because when you get there, it's too late to learn, because you reach there quite tired. Then you wait in a long queue. You moved along like cattle. They might tell you to turn out all your pockets. And they want to see all your money, and they treat you like a criminal. Don't be surprised. And it can be quite humiliating. And from anybody, you don't take that sort of thing. But then you remember, well, I'm here, labaik Allahumma labaik, I'm here as a humble servant, as a slave of Allah. I take anything that happens to me. I don't care, okay, I wouldn't take it from this fellow. But I'm here for Allah. If he feels I need a bit of humiliating, maybe my character needs it, I'll take it. So be warned. There is a great, great test for your patience. I can give you an example. The year I went to Hajj was the year when this tragedy happened in one of the tunnels. And naturally afterwards, after the day of Mina, there was a great rush for the telephones because everybody wanted to get in touch with home to tell them that I'm all right, because everybody was worried. Now, you will, let's say, stand in the queue for a particular telephone for maybe an hour. What happened to me when I got to the phone, somebody jumped the queue and took it. So I said to him, look, it's my turn. You should go to the back of the queue. So he turned around and said, Sabr, ya Haji, sabr. There's nothing you can do. There's no point trying to make him understand that he could have done with a little bit of that what he was advising. So these things do happen. It can be a very emotional experience, Hajj. The first time you see the Kaaba, you may break down in tears. Because, like really this one quote earlier pointed to, of the Muslim from the Soviet Union, Ahmed Kamal, who says Makkah is not a place, it is the beginning, the present, and the forever. And whoever enters Makkah feels this and is shaken. Well, the Kaaba is not just a cubic building. It is something out of this world. You might be taken over by emotions then when you come out of the Haram and find out that not only are the descendants of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions living in Mecca, but the descendants of Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl are still there too, to judge by some people's behavior. Don't expect Mecca to be the place where there is no where everything is peace and nice and nobody behaves awkward in any way. We live in the real world. Mind you, it is impressive to see millions of people gather without any big direction or organization necessary and behave in a good, peaceful, harmonious way altogether. It is impressive. Nowhere else in the world will you find such a large gathering that disciplined. Disciplined only because people come with self-discipline. Because they do want to behave themselves. Nobody tells them there's no policing necessary. This in itself is a sign for people to see. But there may well be provocative behavior by others. And you have to really hold your horses. There may be other things that you don't like. In my case, I was very, very disappointed with the lack of hygiene, with the lack of cleanliness. And there's a great likelihood that you get ill when you go there. On account of that. We talk about medical matters later, I understand, but you find people camping in the streets. Not everybody can book a sleeping place somewhere in a hall when it comes to staying at Mina. People camp there, people throw their rubbish everywhere, people cook in the middle of that rubbish, and this is rife for infections, and it is a rather distressing sight. And it looks to me as the authorities treat it like a bit of, well, let the tourists come and go and then we clean up after them. No attempts are made to remove the rubbish during that time. So, again, something to get ready for. You have to bear with it. And something maybe to learn from, how it should not be. And to make sure that we are not those who contribute to the rubbish heaps by carelessly throwing everything here and there. You find other interesting things. You find groups led on by somebody with a stick and a Coke can to show that he is leading them so they can find him. And it helps you understand how in the olden days people had their leaders and their flags, and it puts you back in that time because it's a very natural grouping and behavior. On the other hand, you may find that many of the historic sites you would want to see are no longer there and are replaced by concrete. You may find, if you sit in Arafat and you want to listen to the khutbah, that you just have some speaker, some loudspeaker somewhere whilst you sit in your tent, and by the time you realize that this is the khutbah, it's almost over. Don't take anything for granted. There will be problems as well as overwhelming positive experiences. You will find at Muzdalifah, when you stay there the night, that far too few arrangements have been made for people to do their essential business. There are no toilets, or very few. And you find everybody searching for a quiet place somewhere to do their business. Up in the mountains or anywhere else, with a few million people, it's very, very difficult, because there are no quiet, sheltered places around. And I'm mentioning this because I hope someday, because it needs to be mentioned, someday somebody will do something about it, if it filters through. The sisters may find that their monthly cycle isn't exactly as predicted, and they find out that it happened at the wrong time. They may be disappointed. But then the very thing happened to Aisha radiallahu anha, so don't be disappointed about it. Because it is your intention that counts when you have gone. It is your sincerity that counts. You may have missed out certain things and have to make up for them. You may have missed the tawaf and have to go and do it again or so. But it doesn't matter as long as you do it. And there it is important again that when these things happen, and especially when they happen unexpectedly, and you're not quite ready for them mentally because you didn't expect them to happen, that you travel with a group where there is somebody who can give you good advice, who can reassure you, who can tell you, well, okay, you did this and that, well, this is what it means, and you just do this and that, and then it's all right. Don't worry about it. It's very important you have somebody in your group you can refer to, who can deal with it, who doesn't panic. So your Hajj actually works out all right. And of course also make sure that if there's anybody with you who has certain problems, that you prepared for that in the group. If there are people who are ill, if you take people who have to be carried around the Kaaba, make sure that these arrangements are made. And you're not left to sort them out by yourself at the end, which can be very difficult. We had somebody with us in a pushchair, and we had great difficulties when it came to moving on to Arafat on time. And these things need to be given thought. And it is good to talk them through beforehand, to know who are the other members of the group, and are there any problems. To know is there maybe a medical doctor who goes along, and so on. And now, as I come to the end of this presentation, one more thing. We said your Hajj starts before you set out. And likewise, let me say, your Hajj does not finish once you board the plane on return, but it continues. What I mean by this is that once you have done the Hajj to the best of your ability, with a clean intention, with pure means, and you feel that you have done your duty, and it has had an impact on you, then when you come back, please do behave like a Hajji. A Hajji is not somebody who comes home and says, I want to be called Hajji now. You all respect me, please. I've been to Hajj, I am something. It is not a status symbol. You have to eternally, until the last breath, you have to conquer and fight your pride. And Hajj is a lesson in that. And afterwards it continues. A Hajji, yes, we honor them, because we expect Hajjis to have come with a reformed behavior, to be generous, to be friendly and helpful to people, to feed whoever comes and honor their guests, to observe what is halal and leave what is haram. We expect those who have been the guests in Allah's house to behave worthy of that honor and be aware of pride. Keep, when you return, that humility that you will have had to learn during your Hajj. And to make that appeal stronger, I quote one more hadith at the end of this talk, and that is a hadith Qudsi, which was reported by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, who said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that Allah Ta'ala said, listen to this carefully, Allah said, pride is my cloak and greatness my robe. So it is pride and greatness is what he clothes himself with. It is only fit for him. And he who competes with me in respect of either of them I shall cast into hellfire. And this is what the whole story of creation is about. The fall of the devil, the subsequent fall of man, the expulsion from paradise. It is all to do with pride. And whether we are content to be slaves of Allah, or whether we want to be masters of our own destiny or of other people. And this humility is so important in forming a harmonious Muslim community and society. If we all have that humility, we can come to an agreement. We can get strong, just like we do at Hajj. And if we all take that lesson and take it home and work accordingly, we might that one day see a revival of Islam through to the improved behavior of the Muslims. Just like we have seen the destruction of Muslim homelands due to the negligence of Muslims for so long. And here, of course, coming to the close, let me also remind you of the plight of our brothers and sisters in Bosnia-Herzegovina, and remind you that there is a rally tomorrow at 12 o'clock at Trafalgar Square to commemorate that this has been going on for a year. And I would encourage all of you, please, to turn up there and make it a strong rally, because that's the least we can do for them. Jazakumullah khairan wa akhir da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum.
Bear with us, we've only got one mic so far today. But I'd like to thank Brother Mustaqim for a very entertaining, a very interesting talk, and there were a lot of useful information there. We're running a bit late, but my experience with queues had to do with chicken. And it took me 45 minutes to get a piece of chicken. But it was very tasty chicken, so alhamdulillah. I'd now like to introduce Dr. Iftihar Saraf, who's a general practitioner in the Northwest London area. And he works in a large group practice. He also has a clinic at Edgware Hospital, which is local. He's a founder member of Brent Islamic Circle and Brent Islamic Forum. And he's a supporter of good Islamic causes, wherever they may be found. And he's going to talk specifically about the medical aspects now, inshallah.
Do you want the acetate? You want to do the acetate and I'll just stay here? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. We've got a little bit of time to catch up on, so forgive me if I do this at a fairly rapid pace. You hopefully won't miss very much, because the information that I'm actually going to give to you is actually in your folders. So you don't need to make notes or anything like that. I'm just going to basically point out a few of the important items that you need to have consideration. There is something up on the wall. Don't worry if you can't see it. As I said, it's all on the paper down there. You're going to hear a lot about how important the Hajj is and how it is the most important event in your life. You've asked for forgiveness from everybody. You've organized halal resources. Hopefully your halal resources are ongoing and not just for the Hajj. You're going to be in Mecca with 2 million other like-minded people in equality, in direct communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, what you don't want is you don't want anything to spoil that experience. We hear time and time again as to how important an experience this is. And you don't really want episodes of diarrhea and vomiting and jaundice and anything else upsetting you if you can do something about it in advance. People say, well, it's God's will that this is going to happen, but there are many hadiths which, for instance, it is incumbent upon every Muslim, male and female, to seek knowledge, even if it means going to China. We don't have to go to China. Woolston is far enough for today, but there's no point in seeking knowledge if you're not going to then take any notice of the knowledge that you've actually received. Your body is a trust given to you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just like your income, however much it is, whether it's £100 or £100 million, Allah, you're going to account for it on the Day of Judgment, and your body is also a trust upon you which you need to look after. And again, if I can point out one or two things for you which will help you inshallah to perform the Hajj from a physical point of view more ably. Now, going on to the Hajj preparation medical aspects, first and foremost, you cannot do a Hajj nowadays without getting a visa, and you cannot get a visa without having your meningitis vaccine done. Now that's very, very important. You won't go any further without getting that done. Meningitis is a disease that is an infection that affects the lining of the brain, and it can kill within hours. And very, very important, I think even if it wasn't compulsory, the very fact that 2 million people from all over the world, coming from different levels of hygiene, different levels of different communities, congregating in one place, coughing and spluttering and spitting on each other, I think the more precautions you can take, the better. Don't forget that it needs about 5 to 7 days for a single injection of the vaccine before it becomes effective, and it lasts for 3 years. It is, in fact, now compulsory for Umrah as well, that you need to have the meningitis vaccine. On the sheet, I've actually indicated about 7 different items that need to be thought about. Many of them, however, are unnecessary if you're planning on going just from England to Mecca and back again. Many people, however, do plan their journeys in such a way that they actually go to Hajj or Umrah, and then they go and visit Bangladesh or Pakistan or wherever. And if you're doing that, then you need to take more careful thought about further protection. But really, as far as going from here to Hajj and back again is concerned, the important thing that you need to think about, apart from the meningitis vaccine, is the hepatitis. It's a gamma globulin. It's an injection that's given about 5-6 days before you travel, and the effect of it lasts for about 3 months. So that's really the highly important one. You can't really afford to be complacent and take unnecessary risks. If you're in any doubt about your immunity, and probably the safest thing to do is to discuss it with your doctor about 7 or 8 weeks before you travel. You can also get information from the British Airways travel services, and I've got at the back of on the second sheet telephone numbers that you can use to contact. it's well worthwhile making the effort to actually get up-to-date information so that you can plan well in advance, and inshallah this type of problem doesn't affect you. Brother was saying about people cooking in the streets, quite apart from doing other things in all sorts of unusual places, and so the risks of infections are certainly very high, and the more precautions you can take in advance, the better. If you suffer from any illness, diabetes, asthma or anything else, it is just common sense to make sure that you are as fit as you can be before you travel, and to make sure that you take all your medication with you. Again, if you have any dental problem, don't wait till you get to Mecca before you start to do something about your toothache. That's something I'm sure you can deal with before you go. There is going to be a lot of overcrowding, heat, dust, mixing of many people, as I've said. There is enormous strain on the Saudi authorities, and I think we should thank the Saudi authorities for whatever they do, and we should try our best not to impose upon them any unnecessary burdens. And that really is a principle for any Muslim throughout his life, not to be a burden on anybody else, and to try and be as independent as possible at all times. Try and avoid direct heat as much as possible. Now obviously there are going to be times where it's going to be impossible to do, but there are things you can do at certain times which are less strenuous as far as heat exhaustion is concerned. Drink plenty of clean water, and there is always plenty of water available. Try and stick to bottled water. Try and avoid any locally brewed fruit juice, etc., because that's something that is likely to give you problems. Be very, very careful with exposed foods. As far as fruit is concerned, try and get fruit that you can peel yourself. That is likely to be much safer than anything that is left unpeeled. Try and eat simple food which is self-cooked. I don't think with the number of Hajjis present that there is any food that's actually left lying around for any great length of time, so it isn't a great risk, but again, be aware. Make sure that you take some salt tablets with you. Make sure that if you haven't done that, that you take adequate amounts of salt when you're out there. You can, from any chemist, get first aid boxes. In the boxes, you'll be provided with syringes, needles, first aid, plasters, bandages, that sort of thing. And it doesn't really take much to ask the pharmacist. The pharmacist will give you advice over the counter about some sore throat pastules, cough medicine, and some medication, something like Imodium or Lomotil, etc., for diarrhea. But the best thing for diarrhea is to try not to get it in the first place. And one of the things you should really do is to try and train yourself not to eat too much before you go. Many people sort of stuff themselves all day long with sweet things. Sweet is very addictive, and if you're sort of pushing so much sweet into you until the day before you go, you're going to find it very difficult not to do without that sort of thing in the next couple of weeks. So try and train yourself beforehand to have light meals, to eat sensibly. Try and get out of the habit of cakes and biscuits and Coca-Cola and things like that beforehand. The Hajj is a very difficult time. It's a very strenuous sort of experience, and as I was saying about training yourself to eat properly, I think you can train yourself to do a little bit of exercise beforehand. From doing an office job, from doing no exercise at all apart from perhaps getting up and switching the TV on, it is going to be very difficult from that state to start doing strenuous walking, backwards and forwards in intense heat and in overcrowded conditions. Try and get yourself starting to exercise from now. Start walking. Walking, doesn't have to be anything very fancy. Walking is a good enough exercise. Start doing it now and walk every day as much as you can. Build up gradually, so inshallah by the time of the Hajj you're able to physically do that sort of thing quite readily. From your guide, get to know the location of the medical centres and hospitals as soon as you can, but hopefully inshallah you won't need them. Again, there is advice on there about the sort of foods to avoid, and I won't go into that. Ladies have difficulties, menstrual problems at times. If you want to delay them, postpone them, it is possible, and the details are given on there. Again, I think I will perhaps leave it at that for the time being, because the information is there, and we need to catch up on a little bit of time. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Take a seat there. Jazakumullah khair. He did breeze through that quite quickly, as Iftikhar said. But as usual, see, we don't like taking Iftikhar anywhere, because wherever he goes, there's a little knot of people in a corner, and you know he's holding a clinic. So I'm sure he'll hold a clinic today, so in the breaks and the time available. And I apologize to Brother Mustaqim for cutting him short earlier on. It was a very interesting talk, very entertaining, but we'd like to get some questions asked as well. Right, the next talk. It's all on the theme of the pre-Hajj preparations. Things you can prepare, things you can know, things you should do before you go. And I'd like to introduce now Dr. Sheila Qureshi, who's a chemist by profession. And she studied in Cardiff, Goldsmith, and has done some postdoctorate work in Switzerland. Shakila has been on Hajj twice and Umrah twice in the last 2 years. And she's also assisted in the organizational aspects of a large group that goes to Hajj. So she's crammed in a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge within these 2 years, apart from any reading and obviously other academic work that she's done. So she's very well qualified to talk about the travel aspects. Now, probably the main area of concern most pilgrims have is their travel arrangements. Usually with a group from this country, you usually need the services of an agent. And I'm pleased there are some agents here today. I think Muntada has been mentioned. I think there are one or two others. In fact, there are definitely one or two others with us here today. And Shakila is going to mention and talk about travel aspects in particular. She does have a bee in her bonnet about Hajj. And Shakila is, I think she told me, she's found her niche in life. Most people, go around in life and looking for a niche, and she's lucky she's found hers, and it is facilitating Hajj, ensuring that Hajj is as it should be, that there are no distractions, as the other speakers have mentioned, that you can concentrate on the spiritual aspects. And this is something that Shakila would like to do. Shakila is in association with another travel agent taking a group on Hajj, and they're in the process this is in the process of being organized right now as we speak, and she'll be happy to speak to anybody who's interested, again during one of the breaks. And without further ado, I'll hand you over to Shakila, and I guarantee you will not be bored.
Assalamu alaikum. Because again we're running out of time, I'll just refer you to 3 handouts that I've put into the folders, or Azhar has. One is a questionnaire which you should take to travel agents. Even if you've booked your Hajj, even if you've decided on who your travel agent's going to be, I think you should still take it along to satisfy yourself of all questions that you need to ask them. Because in my experience last year, when I was put in the position of a group leader, the complaints and the questions that kept coming to me about what the travel agent had promised them and they hadn't got was an absolute dismay to me, because it was totally distracting the people from what their Hajj rituals should be, their spiritual aspects. And so I think you should sort this out before you go, satisfy yourselves before you go, because after all, you will all say that you're spending a lot of money here and you've saved it, and most likely it's going to be the once-in-a-lifetime experience for you. So, yes, the questionnaire has been put up there. I don't know if you can really see it very well from there, but if it doesn't matter, look at the one in your folders then. What I've done is I've tried to break it down into specific areas, and this is based on the questions and the complaints that people kept bringing to me at the time I was there. Though I had nothing to do with those travel arrangements, I was just facilitating it. So, I don't know if I should... Maybe if I... Is there a pen or something? Wow. Right. what I've done is I've tried to provide information which you would, if you go to a travel agent, this is normally what you would expect for them to do for you. You'd expect them to sort out the banker's draft for you, which is arrangement of all the travel within Saudi Arabia. You exchange these for vouchers once you get to Jeddah airport. Now, one of the things that some agents might do is the Qurbani, but I've found out in general most people don't. So you'll have to sort that out when you get there, and that's what you usually can either do it yourself or buy a voucher from the bank. They'll obviously sort out your airline ticket. I don't know, there might be a luxury group who travels by plane internally from Medina and Jeddah, but mostly it's by government buses. Of course, they'll sort out your accommodation. Now, you should find out very minute details about accommodation, etc. Is food provided in Mecca? Well, I'm jumping here. Let's go to the food section. Is there any food provided in Mecca, Medina, Mina, Arafat, Muzdalfa, or in transit? People complain that they've been waiting for hours and not being provided with refreshments. You know, you'll need to know if you have to take those on the journey with you. And one of the major questions is room and location of hotel. Find out, really pin your travel agent down and to ask him how long it's going to take you to travel from your accommodation to the haram. Because they don't, ask them, try and pin them down and say, look, show me on a map, how many minutes is it going to take me to walk that distance? Because you might have old people who can't travel. Rooms. Now, a lot of people, when I went, claimed that they'd been promised individual rooms just for the family. Or, this is a, really important question that you should find out. How many people are in a room? What is the bathroom facilities like? Are they in the room? Are they in the corridor? Are the rooms segregated? Are the floors segregated? This will... Try to ask all these questions before you go, so it minimizes any anxiety that you'll have when you're there. Again, medical aspects has been covered. Make sure, ask, is there a tour doctor there? Religious instructions. Now, the 2 years that I've been, once I just went as a Hajji for, and the second time I went as one of the group leaders, and the notions that people have that when they go with a travel agent or with a group, that everything is going to be laid down for them, that that they are going to teach you everything. Well, I'm afraid that's not the case. Travel agents mainly provide your accommodation, your flight, and in many cases people will say that they're just dumped there. And I was absolutely dismayed when we got to Jeddah airport and a lady came up to me and she says, well, where shall I put my haram on? The lack of preparation from people that are going on the pilgrimage is incredible, because they seem to think that the travel agent is going to do it all for them. Let's quickly... Now, I would study that and take it to your travel agent and then ask him to sign it so that he confirms that all those questions have been answered adequately. And if he doesn't want to sign it, then you'll know that he's kidding you, that he's not being honest. And just, make all those, satisfy yourself completely so that you're not complaining about, I've paid this money and I'm not getting this deal. It spoils your Hajj, believe me. Right, next one. Travel arrangements. Okay, the next handout, that's the green one, I've just tried to make some pointers about travel arrangements. These are just a few things that kept coming into my mind. Again, for instance, when you land at Jeddah airport, the first thing that your travel agent will do is collect your tickets. Now, when I was collecting these tickets, people resisted giving them to me, because they don't want to relinquish their documents. The reason that they're collecting them is because that they have to reconfirm your tickets. If the tickets are not reconfirmed, they'll cancel it, and then there'll be problems for you and your travel agent. So give up your tickets. It's safer for you anyway. The other things that they'll do, as soon as you've checked out, is they'll collect your passports. Again, resistance to giving passports. It's safer to give your passports. You can't travel anywhere individually with your passport in your hand. The passports instantly are given over to the bus driver as soon as you travel, who will keep them safely in a bag, and you will be with him, and they will take them to a mullam office where they'll be deposited again for safety. Now, they're very, very tight about this rule, so don't even think you can have your passport at any time. And one of the reasons is that they claim that a lot of people want to stay illegally there and work there, and they want to ensure that they, give your passport to you and you leave. So, and it's safer anyway. Why do you want to be traveling around with a passport? You might lose it. Again, it's been emphasized so far that, the number of people, 2-3 million people there, remember when you're waiting hours and hours in a bus outside the mullam's office because your travel agent's in there getting receipts for each individual passport, that there are 2 million people at the same time all undergoing this, and that's why you have to wait. And it's vital that you're patient. Again, I'd like to point out in favor of the travel agents, for instance, that if you had to do this individually, go and wait to confirm your ticket individually, go to the mullam's office individually to deposit your passport, you'll be waiting hours in a queue. And let me tell you, when you're waiting hours in a queue and suddenly the azan goes, and then all the queues, they literally close the office, and your place in the queue is lost, and you might start from scratch again in a queue, and then you've wasted a whole day. And remember, most of you are going only for 2 or 3 weeks, and that's very precious time. That if you imagine how awful it is to spend it one whole day in this office when you could be in the Haram Sharif. So this is what your travel agent's doing. He's spending all his time queuing in these offices, trying to facilitate your Hajj. Right. Let me just again emphasize that your travel agent, though he's going to appoint a Maulana or a religious leader or an experienced Haji to go with you, if you're in a big group and he says to you, follow me to the Haram Sharif and say labbaik, labbaik, and follow me, as soon as you get to that door, something's going to happen and you're going to split up. And you're going to think, oh, I don't know, I don't know what to do next. That's why you have to make your preparations for yourself, because in case that happens, and don't spoil it for yourself. It's essential to make all your spiritual and preparations before you go, and where to start from, where to finish from. The nitty-gritty is not important, but these aspects are important. And again, I've just pointed out, read as many books, talk to as many people that have been on Hajj, and don't just rely on that one Maulana there, because he can't cover for a lot of people. And I would recommend that you go with a smaller group as possible, because you'll get more supervision that way. If you go with big groups, you'll feel that you're not being supervised, you might get lost, or whatever. Where's the second one? Right. Now, safety aspects. Again, I've said here, take a safe money belt. Now, the way you position that very safely on your body is another aspect entirely. I thought I was taking a safe purse with me, and I put it under my jubbah, and this was Jummah prayers. And when I came out, there's actually the sister in the audience that was with me when it happened, that I found that the purse had been cut. It was cut. I hadn't even noticed. My purse was still hanging from me, but the purse had been cut. My dress had been cut, and the purse had been cut from inside, and the money had been taken. So be very careful. Don't take all the money with you. Carry just some of it with you. Now, I'm not trying to frighten you, but just have to be careful. Just have to be prepared. Okay, and always wear your identity badges, because it's so hot there that you might faint, you might get split up, but then there's plenty of policemen around there that can, Haram police there, that can take you back or guide you back, or if you can tell somebody. Let me tell you about one experience which was one of the most heartbreaking experiences I encountered while I was there. One of our Hajis got separated at Jamarat, and we found him finally in a military hospital in Mecca. That's because he had his Mecca badge with him, but not his Mina one, so they didn't know where to bring him back in Mina. Now, when I went there was another guy, another old man, in the bed beside him. He had come with family and 50 other people. He had fainted in the Haram Sharif, and before the Hajj started, and he was there when Hajj was finished still. And nobody had come to claim him. He didn't know where his hotel was. He didn't know, the location. He didn't know which what the name of his agent was. He didn't know a telephone number to phone back at home. So it's essential to look after your old people and to make all this preparation. Because you imagine that old man going for Hajj and never even completing it. So wear your identity badges at all time, keeps identification with you. Always make a rendezvous point with anybody that you're with, so that, if you get split, you go back to the hotel or you meet somewhere, say, I'm going to meet you here in half an hour, 1 hour. Always look after each other. This is teamwork. This is what has been emphasized at the beginning. And believe me, take some... All right, okay. All right. It's all right, because I've carried on a bit longer. Again, just read the handouts, and I would like to quote this ayat from the Qur'an, because it's essential that the biggest provision that you take is your patience, which has been emphasized also in the first talk. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. For Hajj are the months well known. If anyone undertakes the duty in them, let there be no obscenity, no wickedness, no wrangling in the Hajj. And whatever good you do, be sure that Allah knows it. And take provision with you for the journey, and the best provision is right conduct. Remember that, the best provision is right conduct. So fear me, O ye that are wise. Okay, the last one I just want to refer to is the Hajj evaluation form. This is so that when you've completed your Hajj, you can evaluate the travel agent that you've been with. This is so that if they are going to continue to do Hajj travel, that there'll be an incentive for them to improve themselves. Because they know that Hajj is a one-time business. It's not generally non-repeat business. People aren't going every year. They maybe only do it once in their lifetime. And it would, unfortunately, we don't have an organization to monitor these people so that they do improve themselves. But hopefully, inshallah, this will be the start of it. Just see if there's any. Right, that's it really. Hope people that do go will photocopy these Hajj evaluation forms and give them out to anybody in their group who can then report back on how they found their Hajj with the certain travel agent that they've gone with. And inshallah, the people that have organized this conference will send out a report or publish the report of their findings. Okay, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakumullah khair. Sorry to rush things a little, we're just trying to make up for lost time. But again, sound advice. And just to, about the questionnaire, we at Brent Islamic Circle would wish you to fill in the form once you've been on Hajj. There's an address on the form. I think it's a yellow, the yellow leaflet in the handout. And if you send it back to us, we'll analyze the results. Not to be critical, we appreciate the work that is done by the travel agents. We appreciate they have a difficult job. But it would be nice maybe to tidy up some loose ends and maybe to give them some incentive to improve. Without incentive, there's no reason to improve. And as the best reporters say, we'll name names and we'll give results and figures and percentages and who people are happy with and who they're unhappy with. Right, I'm grateful for our speakers to stay on the stage with us for the question and answer session. It's as soon as we say any questions, please, there's deathly silence. So I'm going to say now, any questions, you're welcome to come to the mic that's at the front of the stage, and we'll take any questions. Anybody who wants to put their questions on paper. You're surprising me because normally there are no hands going up. Anybody that wants to put their questions on paper is very welcome to do so. Now, while you're thinking, apart from you two who've already thought of your questions, I'd just like to make one or two very quick announcements. And they are this. Again, our apologies. The mosque trustees have told us that the masjid is undergoing a lot of renovation and a lot of improvement in the facilities, but the toilet facilities for ladies today are very, very limited, and we do apologise for that. They're through those back doors there, through the kitchen, up to the left. Now, unfortunately, as I say, they are very limited. I'd request all the sisters to make use of the facilities during lunch, before before the time for Jamaat, so that there isn't too much of a strain on the limited facilities. And if ladies could accompany their children, just to make sure that the toilet facilities are kept as clean as you would want them. For prayer, ladies will go through the door to the right and then up the stairs, not out through the main door, but straight up the stairs, where there are very good facilities for the Zohar prayer there. Anybody who hasn't registered, would they kindly do so whenever they get a minute at the registration desk? It's one of those days today, we were promised a stall for books and videos, which and they haven't turned up, unfortunately, so that's outside our control. But ihrams and scarves for ladies are available, and they're in the back there if you want to take advantage of them. And we'll go straight to the questions now. Do you have a question, brother? Do you want to speak into the mic and tell us who you'd like the question addressed to, please?
Assalamu alaikum. But I'm intending to go for Hajj this year, inshallah, with my wife. We are planning to go on our own because some relatives in Mecca and Jeddah. What I'm not absolutely sure of is at what stage and in whose charge do we leave our passports with and tickets, because we are not going with a group, you see, so we are not absolutely sure about that.
Right, okay, I think Shakila should take that one. The question is regarding passports and tickets.
Assalamu alaikum. Is your relative coming to pick you up in from Jeddah?
Well, I'm not sure if when we land at Jeddah we'll be allowed to see our relatives because we're on our way to Mecca.
Yes, you will. If your relative can come and pick you up, but he then will be in charge of taking you through all the various checkpoints. Like there'll be checkpoints on the way to Mecca, and then he'll be responsible for making sure that you go to each checkpoint.
And the tickets and passport will be taken off at Jeddah?
No, if you're going on your own, your ticket, you will have to deal with the confirmation yourself. You or your relative will have to do that. But the passport will have to be deposited at the Mullem's office, and he can go with you. If he doesn't come to meet you at Jeddah, then you will go on to one of the government buses, and there they will collect your first of all, you will have to show your passport to one of the desks there. There are some desks near. There'll be a row of buses, and there are some. Yes, and desks there. You just show them your passport, and they will exchange it for a voucher. They'll stamp it, and then they will show you to a bus. So, yeah.
Yes, brother. Would you like to speak into the mic and just tell us who you would like your question addressed to?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Akbar Basha, and my question is to Brother Sahib Mustaqim. Brother has said, make sure you don't owe anything to anybody. Yes, the first thing came to my mind. What about the mortgage and bank loans? And if I have a marriageable daughter, do I leave some money? All these questions came to my mind. I would be grateful if you could clarify this, please.
Right. Just before I hand the mic to the brother, this is a very, very big category of question. And we spent almost an hour discussing this last time. As far as the fiqh point of view, we will have Sheikh Darsh who will be well qualified to answer all these questions, although we'll be grateful for Brother Mustaqim's answer now. But we can discuss all this in very great detail later on, inshallah.
It's very difficult for me to answer this question in general terms. You mentioned that Sheikh Dash might give some answers on that, but then I may well myself be in profound disagreement with some of these answers from what I have listened of the answers given at the last seminar. The question really is, in the end, a matter because a mortgage as such is not a halal contract. It is a question of how constrained you are in getting out of it. One thing is you can't now start changing the past. If you have a mortgage, you entered into it. If you haven't got one, don't ever do it. But if you've got one, you've got it. Now, of course, it would be unwise to encourage anybody to put themselves into unacceptable circumstances to get out of what is as such not acceptable. So we have to use some wisdom and reflection and try to find a way out that is reasonable. So in other words, you don't make yourself homeless because your home is now on a mortgage. This is not what is recommended. But if you see any way of getting out of it, you should take that way. And in that sense, if, for example, you had the money to buy yourself out of your mortgage, then you should do that rather than go to Hajj with it. Because then this is of a greater importance to make sure that your general living conditions are on the halal than to going to Hajj. I would think, but as I said, this is a personal opinion and it depends on the individual circumstances, that if you have a mortgage and there is no way out of it, and the money you have gathered to go to Hajj itself would not be sufficient to solve that problem for you, then you should still go to Hajj if you can do so without losing sight of the need to deal with that problem whenever you get the chance to do so. This differs, however, from a mortgage because it's a very long-term agreement you have entered into when you shouldn't have done so, but you have. This differs from other debts that may be settled by the sort of money you're talking about for going to Hajj. If you owe money to people, or if you have a smaller loan, or if it is for a car or something where you can actually remedy it with the sort of money that you would have otherwise spent to going to Hajj, it is my opinion that it is better to get out of this haram contract than to go to Hajj at that particular time. When it comes to leaving money behind for dependents, of course, again, it's a matter of personal judgment as to what is reasonable. If your money scraped together to go to Hajj means that your family will go hungry for the duration of the 3 weeks that you are in Saudi Arabia, it is better not to go, because you have an obligation to look after them in your absence. It is also important to make any kind of reasonable arrangements in case something should happen to you, like, for example, make a will and so on. But it is not necessarily a reasonable idea to put a lot of money aside for eventualities and put the Hajj off because of that. Of course, yes, a daughter or a son will have to be married and you will need some money for that. But then it might be a better idea to reduce the expenditure for such ceremonies, because it's not compulsory to be wasteful about it and hold big banquets, rather than to put off your own Hajj. And it might be even a better idea to take your son or daughter, if they're old enough to Hajj, so they have already discharged their duty, if you have some money spare, before you marry them, if you can do that, because then you know that their obligation has been done and is not dependent on whatever might happen in their family circumstances, and they might not be able to do so for a long time. But all these questions, we are never, and that's why I'm a bit cautious about people giving opinions that then are as if they are the law. We are never in Islam able to discharge our responsibility for, after listening to the guidance and to maybe advice that people have in relation to that, to form our own judgment, relating particularly to our own circumstances, weighing up all the odds, and then deciding to do what we think is most in line of what Allah might want from us, is nearest to taqwa, as the phrase in the Qur'an is in one case. And once we do that with sincerity, and then we pray istikhara to make sure that we also hand over to Allah in this matter, then I think